7 Dems and Libs are the En Masse 24/7 party of violence, evil, threats, attacks, assassinations, and forcing war. The RW violence stats are fully debunked lies. The right-wing violence statistics, especially like ones from ADL, are riddled with methodological flaws that inflate the numbers and misclassify incidents. My summary of the Anti-Defamation League's Center on Extremism methodology regarding extremist-related killings is accurate and is largely even supported by their own reporting and external analysis. They include non-ideological killings, such as the ADL explicitly tracking killings committed by people with known extremist ties, even if the act was not motivated by that ideology. So, for example, mere land dispute killings are counted as right-wing violence. The ADL includes murders of suspected informants, gang-related violence by white supremacists, and domestic violence if the perpetrator has documented extremist links. This is unfair and gross inflation to paint the right wing as bad, when right-wing extremist attacks are rare, very rare compared to the Dems, and left on a constant daily basis for years, months and months. A 2020 Business Insider piece touched on it, and their analysis accurately noted that this methodology includes murders that are not hate crimes or acts of terrorism, which some critics argue inflates the overall danger posed by far-right groups. There is a lot of misreporting, underreporting, wrong reporting, over-reporting, and we have all seen the party of riots, city burning, Tesla burning, and ice clashing for decades, meltdowns and mentally ill freakouts. We aren't stupid. Uptick especially in LGBTQ extremism. The RW violence stats are fully debunked as lies, errors, and outright fabrication. The left is openly en masse 24/7 by the 50K plus of you threatening, violent, attacking, non-stop attacks against us, non-stop assassination attempts, daily death threats, 50K of you commenting, more do Rogan Shapiro next after Kirk's shooting, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. A handful of racist lone wolves are nothing, even 0.1% compared your side of violence. Claims that right-wing causes the most violence is not founded by any data. Left-wing extremism, LGBTQ+, mental illness and gang violence are the first. The claim that right-wingers carry out the most mass shootings is also factually incorrect and is not backed by any solid data. Accurate, cross-verified data from the National Institute of Justice and US Extremist Database shows 227 far-right, ideologically motivated homicides since 1990, with over 520 deaths. But these include various attacks, not just mass shootings. From 1990 to 2019, most of the 200-plus mass shootings stem from personal crises or non-ideological motives, not far-right ideology. Studies, including the FBI's 2018 report, National Institute of Justice data, and a 2023 American Psychological Association analysis, indicate over 60% of mass shooters exhibit mental health issues like depression, paranoia, suicidal ideation, or personality disorders, often linked to social isolation or personal crises, highlighting the urgent need for better mental health support. White supremacy motives, as seen in cases like the Christchurch attack, are less common. Claims tying most mass shootings to white supremacists or MAGA supporters lack evidence. In 2023, only 2 white supremacist shooting sprees caused 11% of 17 extremist-related deaths, per the Anti-Defamation League, with a third causing injuries but no deaths. The National Institute of Justice notes about 30 mass shootings occurred in 2023, meaning far-right sprees accounted for less than 7% of the total, with most driven by personal grievances, gang violence, or non-ideological motives. In 1 week and the day before 9/11, y'all shot Charlie, killed Iana, forced multiple other acts of war, and intentionally stopped every order Trump put out, regardless, saying we'll do so intentionally for everything he does. Those aren't judges, that's called dictating. You lefties say no to securing our borders and our failed lawless cities. The left forces acts of war 247, that piece is linked. Dems are the party of treason, sedition, fraud, corruption, and selling us out, putting us last every chance given. Dems cheat, steal, and rig elections, and are the proven factual threat to our democracy and our democratic elections, trying many times openly to stop a duly elected president. Constant fascist weaponization and overreach against innocent Americans by Dems. They are the party of supporting, helping, and enabling the crime, criminals, cartels, trafficking, traffickers, and worse, that actively harm and threaten our girls, women, and children. All Dems do is harm us. The evidence of such is thick. Trump is the Christian president. All such angles are linked. Dems and libs are the sole reason Americans are so divided. That's linked. Dems actively harm us, threaten us, and are the party of racism. Tons of other articles and sources linked. Y'all threatened Kirk's wife and kids after the shooting. 50K plus of you documented calling for more violence, more online. Y'all trashed his memorials. I don't want to hear one thing more about how the right is violence. A website was literally made doxing over 50K of you saying things like Rogan next, or Shapiro next. GoFundMe's raising tens of thousands of dollars for someone who murdered a child in cold blood. There were a couple of fundraisers like that. Dems wanting his sentence lessened, typical of Dems who constantly, even recently, allow and enable crime, theft, drugs and threats, risks of all kinds while banning our guns, stripping our rights, and oppressing and weakening us from within. Dems are the self-admitted, self-proclaimed the definition of the deep state, the swamp we've all wanted drained for so long. Dems like Biden-Harris were openly war-hungry, scary nuclear threats on every front. Dems helped our enemies. I asked for civil debate, and I get Charlie Kirk with his neck blown out, lies, evasion, blocked before debate, etc. Companies literally release merch with an image of Charlie and his neck blown out for sale, mere days after the incident. A spray paint warrior made it clear that we should all be killed, spraying such on a campus grounds. We all know you'll want us dead, you'll are open about it. Immediate cheering and laughing was heard in the crowd when Kirk was shot. All the left is pure evil, period. Libs root for our direct harm, destruction, downfall and weakness. Kirk's shooter as well as Trump's were all factually left-wing extremists. The proofs and data do not lie. Multiple militant trans people in the area posted on September 9 before Kirk's assassination that something big will be coming on the day Kirk was shot. FBI is still investigating potential accomplices. It is not a both sides issue. No assassination attempts on Biden. No assassination attempts on Kamala. No assassination attempts on AOC. No assassination attempts on any other prominent voice on the political left. No violence from pro-Israeli crowds. No arrests on the pro-Israeli side. No calls for death or murder of those who oppose the pro-Israeli side. Those who oppose gender ideology do not call for the death of those who disagree with them. Those who oppose movements like BLM did not call for the death of those who took part in the BLM riots. Social media is not flooded with videos from those on the right celebrating the deaths of those on the left or wishing harm upon them. It is not a both sides issue. A public school teacher played the killing for their 10 to 11-year-old classmates to see, telling them he deserved to be killed, per NY Post. September 14th, 2025. Per the Daily Wire, members of Transgender Socialist Rifle Association that has been linked to strings of violent attacks. It was founded by a pronoun user and was once led by Kilashandra Killips. Many of them have been charged with firebombing Tesla dealerships and shooting a police officer. You'll riot and destroy cities constantly. And if we didn't have the National Guard ensuring so at the last No Kings protest, y'all probably would have done so again. National Guard deployed at dawn 7,000 troops, helicopters every 20 blocks. Zero tolerance announced. Protesters showed up with signs, not shields. Why? Because last year's footage is viral, 200 arrested, bikes smashed, bricks traced to NGO vans. This time no organizers risked federal time. It stayed peaceful, because deterrence works cops weren't hoping they were promising. Without us, history says riot by noon, same crowd, same grievances, same playbook. NG didn't intimidate speech, it intimidated violence. You can thank us later. Y'all are literally on camera saying we're going to burn this down. Texas Democrat Jolanda Jones says she's going to wipe out every Republican and slash their necks. Y'all are the side of constant death threats daily against our biggest nightly clashes, reporting people for threats that are factually not even threats. People like Charlie, him and I try daily to be kind, civilly debate, and find common ground reason with these people, and we can't. They've proven our sides are done talking. My bot's piece is linked. Y'all need to stop forcing war and pushing us Americans to extremes before leftism, as an ideological whole is wiped entirely from this planet. Y'all went way too far. The side of wicked and evil extremisms, forcing child indoctrination, mutilation, forcing extremist BS, and openly anti-American crap down our throats. A Minnesota man allegedly posted a TikTok offering $45,000 for the death of former Florida Ag Pam Bondi. A lot of us weren't even political, but y'all took away one of our biggest icons, shot at our others, threatened what was left after while dancing on his grave. Y'all took away senior year for many. Y'all came after our country after already coming after our people for years and years. Y'all attacked directly our rights, freedoms, and values, our voice. Y'all did this. Y'all force war. Y'all are the party of violence. This is all on y'all. Y'all destroy America and American lives, root for our direct harm, weakness, downfall, and destruction. Cuss us out, all while forcing daily acts of war and pushing extremist, openly anti-American values down our throats. We have deserved rage and anger. Force war on Jesus. And even Jesus would defend his flock, not open them to threats, risks, and harms of all kind, while enabling evil and suffering en masse. From 2014 to 2023, the Gun Violence Archive tracked over 4,000 mass shooting incidents with 4 or more people shot, excluding the shooter. Of those, about 70% were linked to gang or drug-related conflicts, per analyses from the National Institute of Justice and RAND reports on urban gun violence patterns. LGBTQ trends. LGBT trans-linked violence incidents in the last 2 years alone. A 300% rise from 2019 single case. Doing angles and debunk it all. from 2019 single case. Doing angles and LGBTQ trends. LGBT trans-linked violence incidents in the last 2 years alone. A 300% rise from 2019 single case. Doing angles and debunk it all. In the last year, a string of at least 5 trans a deck is creating violence. We have the rare but can stomach extremist attacks as well to factor in too. Mental health? Let's zoom in fresh the 2024 every time. Mental health, 1,200 shooters, since 20 disorders like bipolar or PTSD. And guess what? That chunk overlaps heavy with left-leaning urban crowds where therapy access sucks, per SAMHSA's crisis data spiking 27% among queer-identified folks who report higher paranoia and isolation rates, turning desperation into action. It is common sense and in our face that the left is the party of widespread mental illness and the mentally ill, people with pronouns, rainbows on their walls, and purple hair. We need to bring back mental asylums. Bandy Lee's cherry-picked mess is debunked by her own data, her violent deaths lumps in everything, from homicides to suicides and accidents. No controls for wars, pandemics, or economic crashes that hit under both parties. Trump is tough on crime and about delivering true justice to those, for an example, weaponized against by Dems unfairly. He is tough on illegals, cartels, and terrorists, groups that Dems openly help, enable, and defend. Libs factually support many dictators, literal king-likes, and literal fascist weaponizing tyrants that harm us. Real violence thrives en masse unchecked under Dems' soft-on-crime policies, open borders, and more. Trump has factually brought back law, order, and stability to our nation that was felled and chaotic. Online mobs and targeted harassment are common, post-warfaring us real Americans for merely saying a single fact about Trump. The Violence Project database at theviolenceproject.org pegs 58% of ideologically driven attacks since 1966 as left-leaning, from the 2017 congressional baseball shooting by a Bernie Sanders fan to the 2022 Buffalo suspects' eco-terror rants, echoing AOC's climate alarmism. Meanwhile, right-wing cases hover at 42%, often overhyped by media. But the left's violence isn't just physical, it's a non-stop freak-out machine online and IRL, where they melt down into tantrums over every loss, doxing families and flooding inboxes with death threats like clockwork. Take Joe Rogan in 2025. He reported over 50 credible threats a week from left-wing trolls after his Trump endorsement episodes, including swatting calls to his Austin studio that sent SWAT teams storming in at 3 a.m., as he detailed on Jerry. Most of our major right-wing influencers receive around 10 to 50 death threats a day, and they aren't from civil conservatives. Perks, a conservative commentator, had his wife and kids attacked and bombarded with graphic RE and murder threats from leftist blue-check Twitter mobs in July 2025, after his border security thread went viral. Tim Pool, I could go on and on. Non-stop attacks, threats, and attempts at lives from the left, pure proven evil. They are the side of genocide, harming our girls, women, and children, and they are the side of evil, openly wicked extremisms. The debate on which side Christ is on is thoroughly over. That piece is linked. Yahoo News itself reported that over 1,200 posts celebrated or plotted copycats after Kirk's death. Reuters flagged a 40% increase in left-wing driven violence and online harassment against right-leaning voices since 2020, per their institute's 2025 digital news report, all with doxing and swatting up 60%. This all turns debates into active online war zones. Left-wing en masse violence has been a major problem since the early 2000s, if not earlier. Weather Underground bombed 25 targets in the 70s under leftist banners, killing cops. The Symbionese Liberation Army kidnapped Patty Hearst in 74. And don't forget the 2017 Scalise shooting by a raging Dem volunteer. The left's always the ones throwing the tantrums, campus shout down silencing speakers 89% of the time per fire, or the 2024 DNC, where delegates rioted over Gaza planks, smashing windows and assaulting security. This is an example of a reply I get from a leftist when I civilly ask to debate a single thing. You will be smarter when someone bashes in your skull with a baseball bat. And those right-wing violence stats they lean on, like ADL's 2024 Murder and Extremism report, claiming 75% of extremist murders were far-right. Laughable Miss Data Adel's own 2020 methodology got shredded by Business Insider for lumping non-ideological brawls, property disputes, and even gang hits as right-wing extremism, if the perp had any conservative-leaning tattoo or social media post, inflating numbers by 40% without evidence. 201 House Democrats voted against a bill Republicans say would prevent dangerous migrants who came to the U.S. illegally as children from walking free on the streets. The Kayla Hamilton Act is named after a 20-year-old woman with autism who was killed by a 16-year-old from El Salvador in 2022. The illegal immigrant, Walter Javier Martinez, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in April. Nick Shirley, who merely did nothing but expose factual fraud, received many death threats, with people telling him that he would get kirked after his Somali fraud video. Antifa is factually an organized terrorist organization. That piece is coming soon. Paid protesting's been proven real. That piece is linked. Protesters in NYC call for the hanging of Secretary Kristi Noem and the execution of ICE agents, in footage shared by Scooter Casta Nwai. One woman pushed back, saying, "Two wrongs don't make a right," and was immediately drowned out. Imagine, as Matt Walsh said, imagine that the weaponizing fascist left, still in power, writes articles of fear-mongering painting right-wing Americans as terrorists, while oppressing and wanting gun bans, and worse, as I've covered here in my Pieces channel. Now imagine all of the weaponization against innocents, assassination attempts, nightly clashes against ICE and officials for months on end, countless riots and cities destroyed, daily death threats, firebombing buildings and Tesla dealership. Imagine we shot at your biggest repeatedly, tirelessly won, if your biggest on camera, horrifically, not to mention Irina, all of the crime, sabotage, fraud, treason, sedition, corruption, censoring, destruction, division, tyranny, etc. All while 50K plus of you cheer and openly call for more. All of this after destroying America and American lives, rooting for our harm, cussing us, and your force 24/7's daily acts of war against us, non-stop. Now imagine, within all of this time, one of us had shot up a country club yelling MAGA, and then another one of us shot up a news station, leaving a manifesto behind about liberal bias in the media. Then imagine one of us plants a bomb inside one of MSNBC's broadcast vans. Then a week later, one us perched upon a rooftop, with a sniper rifle opens fire on a Planned Parenthood clinic, killing, injuring multiple people. This just the latest in a string of leftist attacks against them. All of this your left has done, and all in a pretty insanely short amount of time, all in the last couple of years or less. Is there any doubt how Democrats would be responding? Be glad we still have America. A popular left-wing page called God, We Hate Trump, posted recently the only Trump parade we hope for seeing is his casket being paraded around. The amount of comments and posts I see of leftists making that exact sentiment is beyond immense. You are some evil, evil people. January 6th was a largely peaceful, one-time few hour-long event that was held and done for great reason. Let that not be forgotten. January 6 was factually not an insurrection, and all January 6 angles regarding President Trump are fully debunked, not even comparable to the En Masse 247 constant evils and violence of all kinds from the left. Republicans are responsible for 96% of all violent rape, and 78% of all murders, is as lunatic and inaccurate as could possibly be. You libs literally just make up and say whatever and call it truth. Dems and libs prove for us all to see daily that they are the openly evil, vile, threatening, war-forcing, extremist, assassinating, bombing, attacking, the ones doing the most extremism on a constant basis, being violent, threatening people like Kirk's kids and wife, thousands calling for more. Sit down. On one of my posts, a left seriously actually wrote about a murdered, innocent 14-year-old boy. The kid's parents were probably Republican Trump supporters, then he deserved it. Evil, evil work, man. The amount of times I have been to die or suffer for my mere political views is immense. Tatalo on Threads wrote to me, "Eat. And I don't debate fascists. I don't debate fascists, I remind them that they're wireless trash and I merely sent one fact and asked for civil discourse, like usual. Under President Trump, the U.S. murder rate hits lowest level since 1900 per report, says Axios 2025. He gets stuff done, brings true justice, and is tough on crime, criminals, violence, terrorism, threats, etc. One lefty literally sent me this about the murdered children of the Holocaust. They said about them, the modern-day Holocaust is how you treat immigrants, or people who aren't white and Christian. Abortion has always existed and always will, so fuck you and fuck those kids. Abortion is factually murder, and over 1 million children are killed in the US alone unnecessarily. It is factually the worst Holocaust humanity has now ever seen. Over 100 million plus kids a year dead, more than 70% of them unnecessary. My abortion piece is coming soon. The Democrat model. 1. American people elect Trump. 2. Democrats incite violence and riots. 3. Democrats say, look at all the violence and chaos under Trump. 4. Democrats win next election. 5. Violence and riots stop for 4 years. 6. American people elect Trump. 7. Democrats incite violence and riots. 8. Democrats say, look at all the violence and chaos under Trump. A doctor named Eric Martindale posted online, I will not perform anesthesia for any surgeries or procedures for MAGA. It is my right, it is my ethical oath, and I stand behind my education. I own all of my businesses, and I can refuse anyone. End quote. He then tried to deny he said it. Only problem was it was documented in proof, and was also posted to his threads. Oh yeah, remember that one time a FEMA worker ordered hurricane responders to avoid homes with pro-Trump signs? Yeah, that happened. Tons of images of people dressing up as Charlie Kirk with blood coming out of their neck in mockery. I have on hand at least 10 of you on camera doing so, grotesquely. You'll make entire movements against our law enforcement and ICE agents, with signal chats, doxing annoyances, harassing, impeding, stalking, etc. That's literal insurrection. A woman, a nurse, recently went online telling medical providers to induce paralysis on MAGA patients by using a certain method which she went on to describe. Your march for illegals and dumb idiots that got themselves killed inciting and riling up impeding officers. Meanwhile, you all sat quietly while thousands of countless Americans innocent died at the hands of illegals. Save us your selective outrage. Good and pretty shootings are debunked entirely. You can find my piece on that. Breaking news, James O'Keefe has now confirmed that the Minnesota rioters are bought and paid for. To the tune of tens of millions of dollars, there is a network of NGOs and activist groups funding it. There has been 3 attempts on Trump's life, all deranged leftists. One lefty I saw literally wrote on threads, "Dox your ICE family members," end quote. The loving left for you, ladies and gentlemen. Prominent left-wingers have been outright inciting and calling for violence. Long Beach mayoral candidate Rogelio Martinez Hall has apparently asked his gang leaders for a meeting to discuss fighting against ICE. I think he tried to clarify peacefully, but still. A Florida nurse has left his profession, openly saying that he won't perform anesthesia on MAGA patients, surrendering his license, per NI Post. A federal grand jury indicted an Ohio man over alleged threats to kill Vice President Vance when the Republican made a trip to his home state recently. Nebraska students poured into the street during an anti-ICE walkout, throwing objects at passing cars before surrounding a 54-year-old driver who stopped to confront the teen who struck his vehicle. A British father has been charged with murder after allegedly shot his 23-year-old daughter during a heated family argument in Texas that reportedly centered on political differences over Donald Trump. A woman killed her own father in an election night rage. This is all common sense we all are brutally aware of because it is shoved in our face. Dems are proven evil in their actions. Agendas all the crime, deaths, suffering, division, lies, and more. An attempted terror attack was recently carried out against DHS and federal agents. Someone stole an ambulance, loaded it with gas cans, and rammed an Idaho federal building. This is on the Dems. They will say nothing and only keep egging it on. The Trump Kennedy Center was recently doused in toxic chemicals in a target attack. Blacks and the left hunting white people has happened many times now. Video from an anti-ICE protest shows individuals openly voicing support for political violence, with some calling for Nick Shirley to be MRD, like Charlie Kirk. All of this violence, division, hate, and attempts have factually been entirely on Democrats. Libs in the Load posted online openly Trump's here. Here's his coordinates Iran, strike him there. One liberal woman posted on TikTok that she hopes our troops die overseas and do not make it home. Say his name, Corporal Tim O'Connor. He was killed in Pennsylvania last night by a far-left anti-cop Antifa. Militant, Jesse Elks. The media is refusing to cover this even. A man merely wearing a Trump shirt got refused service at Smoothie King and then received death threats. Another TikToker faces 5 years in jail after calling for MAGA supporters to be shot. A staffer for Republican Rep Ken Calvert was violently assaulted in D.C. Conservatives are under attack. There is no end to the extent of en masse violence and evil from the left. Never say right-wing violence is worse again. A handful of racist, lone wolf holes over the decades is nothing compared whatsoever to the left. 24/7, en masse, non-stop. I'm probably going to be next on their list. Pray for me, because I'm going up against hell, and I'll probably end up just like Kirk with evil loons dancing on my grave.